Springboks side for the 2021 British and Irish Lions tour. I've got two neighbours. One's mowing the lawns and one's cutting some wood. So goodness knows if I'll get through this video. I've started and stopped several times. But anyway, I'm going to try and pick a 23-man squad. I will put it out there that it's quite difficult to pick a Springboks squad, and there's a reason people are picking more Lions squads than Springboks squads, because the Lions one, you pretty much just had to watch the Six Nations, and barring Sam Simmons, it was pretty much all those guys, right? They've been in international rugby recently. The Springboks haven't played since 2019, and on top of that, you've got guys in South Africa, you've got guys in Japan, you've got guys in France, in the Pro 14, in the Premiership, and some of the guys in South Africa, like the Cheetahs guys, aren't even playing. I think they are going to organise them a special game, but it's very hard to keep track of all these different players. Who's injured, who's in form, who's uncapped. Would you throw an uncapped guy against the Lions? There's lots to think about. Now, Jacques Nienaber and Rassie Erasmus are pretty smart guys, so they will have a plan. I do not know what that plan is. So I'm not even going to try and replicate it. I mean, you've seen the photo of Rassie, right? Sitting on top of the stadium, on top of the roof of the stadium, with like lights and coloured paddles to communicate to his players. The dude is a next level thinker. Not so much me. So I'm just going to take what he had as the kind of core for the 2019 Rugby World Cup final winning squad and just tinker with that, because I think that's a safer way to go, and I can avoid all the difficult questions of do you blood guys for their Springboks debut in a Lions test. Maybe some of them will get games against Georgia. But anyway, the Springboks side for the 2019 final, you had the beast Tim Tawera starting at loose head. He has retired, so he needs replacing. The obvious replacement is Stephen Kitsoff. Kitsoff was on the bench in the final. Chuck him in to start. Easy as. Springboks experience. Kitsoff's experience is deep and vast, and he's a good scrummager, very good scrummager. Good at the breakdown. Nothing not to like about Stephen Kitsoff starting at loose head. And that just begs the question, who replaces Kitsoff as the bench guy? I'm inclined to go with Lizo Gqoboka. I think he's a good scrummager and good around the park. There'll be an argument for Oxenche and probably some other guys as well, but for me, it's Gqoboka. Tight head, you had Franz Malherbe as you guys starting. I think he probably still starts if you are going for that out-and-out scrummaging, being a solid platform for the box, because he is just that proper unit of a player. He's not a huge try scorer or a huge pilferer. He lifts his jumpers and he does his tackles that he needs to, but more importantly, he's got a very stable scrum. He should be there at tight head. They had Vincent Koch as the replacement guy. Now, he's a bit of a question mark because he's playing for Saracens, so he's not playing top-level rugby at the moment. So I'm more inclined to go with Trevor Nyakane, who was playing top-level rugby and is playing top-level rugby. I want to say was. I mean, I'm thinking more about the Rugby World Cup because he got injured and wasn't able to participate in the final or the games leading up to the final. So the series guys for England and the Six Nations didn't tend to go that well. So I'm going to kind of lean on the side of caution and go with Nyakane as the replacement tight head. So that's your props. Hooker, you had Bongi Mbonambi and Malcolm Marx as the guys for the final. I don't see any real reason to change. Bongi seems to be playing pretty well for the Stormers, soon to be Sharks. He's that kind of guy who adds a bit of punch at the start of the game. And then Malcolm Marx, who's been playing in Japan. Admittedly, I haven't seen him in Japan, but by all accounts, he's been in good form. And yeah, he's a good turnover merchant. Don't see any reason not to play those two guys as your hookers. So no changes there, kind of steady as she goes. Locks is an area where they've had a bit of trouble with injuries. Evan Etzebeth, I believe, has kind of been in and out with injury. The latest one was a finger injury, but I think he's back fit. And he's a proper unit of a man, adds a lot of weight to that scrum, very strong. Good at the line-out as well, so no reason not to play him if he's fit. The other guy they had was Lut Diacha, and he has not been fit. He has been injured and injured and injured again. So, given that he's still rehabbing, he is one guy that I'm going to change. I'm going to change him for Franco Mostert, who was on the bench for the final. Start him ahead of Diacha. I mean, he's a different player to Diacha. He's more of a work rate guy, but he's still got the skills. I don't think he's quite as skilled ball in hand as Diacha is. And Achias Neyman is probably the natural replacement, but he is also rehabbing. So I can't bring myself to pick either of those guys. unfortunately. If they are fit, I'm sure they will play, but neither of them has played really any rugby in any length of time, and I don't think it's going to happen, at least as I sit here recording this video. I'm happy to go with Mostert, experienced guy, as I said. Proper tall as well. He can play loose forward, but he's like 2 meters tall, so he's a solid unit. And that leaves the question who to replace these guys with on the bench. If I'm not going to play Snyman, and if Mostert is starting, because those were the two lock cover players in the World Cup final. I'm going to go with one, JD Schickerling. Proper tall timber player as well, out and out lock replacement. Uncapped is maybe a bit of a gamble, but he seems to have the goods. And the other guy is Jason Jenkins, is capped by the Springboks. He's been playing in Japan. Haven't seen much of him in Japan, but again, by all accounts, he's in good form. Plays lock, can play loose forward. Seen lots of him at the Bulls. Rangy, big ball carrier as well. Certainly got the skills as well. So kind of happy to have him as a replacement there too. Can't believe that lady is still mowing the lawns. Like, it's a tiny lawn. How does it take that long? Anyway, loose forwards, World Cup final, you had Sia Kolisi, Peter Steph Dutoy, and Dwayne Vermeulen as 6, 7, and 8. For Sia Kolisi, he's not been in the greatest of form since moving to the Sharks from what limited amount I have seen of him, but he's the Springboks captain. He will come right. I think he starts at 6. Peter Steph Dutoy, World Player of the Year 2019, has had a huge injury layoff, but is back and is playing well. He's only been back for a short time. That's going to become a bit of a theme through the squad, actually, but he seems to be back and in good form. He's one of those guys that I think you can just drop into the squad and probably picks up where he left off, despite the huge injury layoff. Can cover lock if needs be. You're not supposed to mow the concrete, just the lawn. He can play lock if needs be to cover for maybe Lutiacha, but I think he has more value as a Lucy. And Dwayne Vermeulen is in really great form for the Bulls from what I've seen of a big physical presence, good under a high ball, good at the breakdown, big tackler, good leader as well, so good guy to have at number 8, no reason to replace him. Plus, like some of his rivals like Notcher, who is a bit maybe more mobile, he's out injured and not available anyway. Loose forward replacement at the World Cup, it was Francois Lowe. He is retired, so you need to find somebody else. If he's fit, I would like to see Marcel Coetzee. He's the guy who I'll put in the lineup. If he's not fit, then maybe like Vincent Chituka would be a good guy. But again, he's uncapped, so it's easier to go with guys who are capped because they're more of a known quantity at that level. Coetzee can cover 6, 7, 8. He's a big ball carrier. He's a great turnover merchant as well. Backs, Faf de Klerk at 9, I think is like one of those guys that's out and out the clear favourite for that jersey. There's nobody, I think, who gets quite close to him. He's been playing the Sharks in the Premiership, by all accounts, in good form. I don't watch enough Premiership to confirm that, but I think he's the obvious number 1. And his replacement on the bench was Herschel Yankees. He's a guy who adds a bit of kind of zip from the bench. He's been playing in South Africa, seems to be having a decent run without being kind of setting the world alight. But yeah, again, no reason to change if it's not kind of broken, although Faf, if he's in form, probably plays the majority of the game. Unless it's comfortable, then Herschel adds a bit of zip at the end, as I mentioned. Handré Pollard, another guy who's had a huge injury layoff, but maybe just coming fit at the right time. He's back from Montpellier. If he's fit, he's the obvious number 1. Obvious number 1. There's a bunch of other guys who you could have, but I don't think anybody steps into that 10 jersey if Pollard is available. I think he's the clear guy for 10. For 12, Damien de Allende was the guy in the final. I've seen him playing loads for Munster, and he's been playing really well. I don't think there's any challenge to get that 12 jersey from him. Lucanio Arm's been captaining the Sharks in South Africa at 13. The Sharks have kind of been a bit sketchy. They've been a bit in form, out of form, so it's kind of hard to know, but those guys have played together with each other. They bring different things to the game. Arm is one of the better defensive readers of the game, whereas Damien de Allende is a big old ball carrier, so a good combo to have at 12 and 13. Mapimpi was on the left wing for the final. Seen him playing a little bit in Japan, still seems to have the gas. He knows the way that the South Africans like to use their wingers. They've always got a big job, a lot of ground to cover out wide. I don't see any reason to change him, given that he knows the system. But there's certainly a lot of outside backs that could challenge for the Springboks jerseys. Colby was on the right wing. I think he's probably one of the first names off your team sheet. He's only a little guy, huge step on him. Very reliable. He's covered fly half for Toulouse, for goodness sake, so he could do a bit of everything. I think he's probably one of the first names off the team sheet. And Willie Leroux is maybe a bit of a question mark guy. He was under heaps of pressure at the World Cup. And I've seen the documentary Chasing the Sun, so it seems like he was playing with a little bit of an injury, which is maybe why he wasn't quite up to it. But in the final, he played pretty well, didn't he? So, yeah, given that he knows the system, he can cover wing if needs be. I think he's been okay in Japan. I think he's probably another safe pair of hands. But in terms of guys that are under pressure from younger, up-and-coming players, LaRue would be certainly one of them because there's a heap of good fullbacks in South Africa at the moment. The other guy on the bench was Frans Steyn. He's in a unique position in that how many positions he can cover, what a big old boot he's got, and just how much experience he has as well. He's been there and done it before. So that maybe gives him the edge. If I'm going to stay, I'm going to be conservative and keep him in the squad as well. So for my 23, as I say, not going real left field, keeping things pretty stable. You're replacing Tendai Mtawarira, you're replacing Lutiaka and Akia Snyman, guys who have been out long-term injured, and you're replacing Francois Lowe, otherwise keeping things pretty stable. If you wanted to kind of spice things up a bit, you could look at guys like Jesse Creel, either in the midfield or on the bench. He can cover wing, fullback, and the midfield as well. So he's another potential option. If you're looking at maybe Colby covering 10, I don't know, that's like maybe a bit crazy. Damien Willems is another guy who can add a bit of spice, but his consistency is really, he's consistently inconsistent. No doubting his talent. The guy can set the world alight, but other days you'll be shaking your head. So, but he's certainly a young talent. Chituka, like I mentioned, for the loose forwards. Johan Hussen could be a guy. In terms of like filling that Steyn role, he's got experience. He can cover 10, he can cover fullback, he can cover midfield. I don't know, I've seen him play wing, but he can certainly cover a lot of positions. He's got a big old boot. Big old boot is Kerwin Bosch. He's got a massive boot. He can cover 10 and 15. He's not a big defender. I think if you play him at 10, you probably need to shift him to fullback on defensive plays. He can play in the line when you're attacking, but you don't want him in the line when you are defending, most likely. Edville van der Merwe's been tearing it up in terms of an outside back who's Colby-esque if Colby was injured, but you've got Nkosi as well, who has played for the Boks before. Afalele Fassi is a guy at fullback who's certainly putting his hand up as well. I think he can play wing too. If you want some of the old guard, Morne Steyn, if Pollard's not fit, there's a guy who's been there and done it before as well. If you don't want to go with the likes of a Kerwin Bosch. Cornel Hendricks, I don't think got invited to the alignment camps, but seems to be playing really well for the Bulls and can cover multiple positions. Corbus Reinach, if you want to go with a bit more experience to cover that number 9 jersey. I don't know, guys. It's tough. Like I said, I've kept it pretty conservative with my picks, just making only essential changes where needs be. It is very hard because apart from a couple of games against Georgia, you don't really have any time to blood these guys before they play the British and Irish Lions. So the home team is kind of in a similar position to the away team and trying to bring all these guys together, which is always the biggest challenge with the Lions. But if anything, they kind of have even less prep because they have fewer games. But anyway, like I said, they're doing what they can. They got the alignment camps. They have got the Cheetahs guys getting a game organised for them for the likes of Roscoe Speckman and Frans Steyn. And yeah, it's going to be a fascinating one to watch. A bunch of guys in Japan. Jesse Creel got his face busted up the other day, and LaRue and all kinds of other guys. I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating one to watch. That's my crack at it. Like I said, pretty conservative. Russie and Jacques are going to have some kind of crazy left field plan. I'm absolutely sure of it. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Other guys who I haven't mentioned, there's tons of them. There's heaps of talent in South Africa, at home and abroad. You guys let me know your thoughts. Like the video if you got this far through it. Drop a comment. Subscribe to Patreon. Buy me a coffee. All that kind of good stuff. And look forward to the Lions tour. I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.